Bienvenidos, Fright fans, and welcome to the horror show. I am Jaime En Fuego, here to present a special encore presentation that originally in 2015 was seen on my then YouTube channel, Jaime En Fuego, which was for a program called ENFUEGOTAINMENT that is in the process of a relaunch. But we thought that for the month of October, the best thing that we could do was bring the entire series coverage of the 1980s and 90s Tales from the Crypt HBO television show over to the horror show, show it to a larger audience so that they can appreciate all of the hard work. Man, did I bust my ass for that month or so, getting every single one of the 93 episodes done and reviewed and spoken about. We did a little of my little trope at the time, which was Bueno, Malo, Feo, which is a good episode, a bad episode, and an ugly episode. I am taking these 3 at a time, and then also a special 3-episode final edition covering all 3 of the films. Yes, there are in fact 3 films. So join me here as we jump into a little bit of a horrific relic that I am very proud to show all of you guys. So until next time, stay scared. So, Fright fans and amigos across the planet, you got Jaime En Fuego here. I'm representing my heavy metal television cohorts here and the horror show as well. But this is ENFUEGOTAINMENT, where yours truly covers the hottest entertainment with an edge. And I have a massive undertaking that I've been doing here for the month of October that we are here for part 13 of. Yes, lucky number 13. I've been going through the entire Tales from the Crypt library, the entire series, that's right. 1 through 93, and with 3 episodes a day, 93 episodes, 31 days in October. The math just added up perfectly. And yes, so I always do the Bueno, the Malo, and the Feo, that's right. So with the 3 episodes, giving each of them a distinction, it just made perfect sense here for the month of October as a most spooktacular special for all of you guys. So let's get into it. I basically was in the crossover mode here for this particular episode. So I was doing the last 2 episodes of Season 3 and then jumping into Season 4. And Season 4 is, in my opinion, when Tales from the Crypt was pretty much firing on all cylinders, man. And that's why the very first episode, the Bueno, is going to be episode 1 from Season 4. It's called None But the Lonely. And it's kind of funny because it stars a guy named Treat Williams, who had apparently received massive, acclaim critically for Once Upon a Time in America. He also did work in the Broadway version of Hair, or I believe it was the Broadway version. Maybe it was a theatrical adaptation or something. But yeah, so bottom line, Treat Williams was an esteemed, dramatic actor. And my first time seeing him was in Deep Rising, because I was an 80s kid, growing up in the 90s and loved monster movies and stuff like that. And so, yeah, that cheesy, Monster at Sea film that he did with Miss Funka Johnson, who went on to, be in the X-Men movies and all kinds of other rad stuff. But yeah, so this stars Treat Williams basically as... He's a womanizer, but he's way worse of a womanizer than you would think. He's a guy that goes to these dating services, and this is way before Tinder and, I guess the opposite end of the spectrum, like the equally yoked for the Christians or whatever. And he's going to these video dating services, and he's looking for old, rich women. And he's not, swindling them and just taking their money. He's killing them. And poisoning them and somehow making sure that, and he has a whole laundry list of these women that he's done it to, and he's seemingly getting away with it. I don't know, it's kind of crazy, but the payoff is tremendous in this one. It's actually directed, ironically enough, by Tom Hanks, and this is 1991, so this is before Hanks was winning Academy Awards for Forrest Gump and Philadelphia and stuff like that, before he became that amazingly esteemed dramatic actor. And this is when he was about to make the crossover, so he actually cameos in it as the guy at the dating service who's kind of oblivious to what Treat Williams' character is doing, which is just beyond me. But yeah, None But the Lonely, it appeared in the pages of Tales from the Crypt number 33, so yeah, it was on the flagship EC book. The story is great. It could really be told at any time. I'm sure they just updated this for the 90s, and hell, this is a story that could be updated, for Tales from the Crypt reboot and could be remade now, and I think it would be equally effective, although, there'd be a little bit more of a paper trail here in the online world. So, in any event, this one is tremendous. This episode, None But the Lonely, was very much the Bueno, and yeah, kicks off Season 4 here on Part 13 of my Tales from the Crypt coverage. Next up, we have the Malo Man. Yeah, that's right. And most know that the MALO is the bad in Espanol. So the bad, man, this was right here at the tail end of the 3rd season. It's an episode called Spoiled, as you'll see below, and it's not so much about a spoiled woman as just, she's like a desperate housewife type. She's played by Faye Grant, who received the Theatre World Award in the 80s for her, work in the stage version of Singing in the Rain, but here in the early 90s, she wasn't really, too notable. She had just come off the Omen 4 or something like that, and regrettably, she is most recently known for divorcing the pastor from Seventh Heaven, Mr. Stephen Collins, for some very sordid stuff, and that is like real-life horror that we will not get into here, but this episode is full of cliches. It is, I'd honestly say it's poorly acted, despite having Mr. Anthony LaPaglia in it, who won all kinds of awards, both Golden Globe and Emmys for Without a Trace as an FBI agent, but also on Frasier. So the guy can do comedy, he can do drama, as he was also in stuff like The Client, and then he was also in So I Married an Axe Murderer, and what else? Empire Records, you can forget that one, but the guy's got a very lengthy list, but this is before he really made the crossover into being really esteemed and really acclaimed. He's a cable guy that comes over to give, pay cable to Faye Grant's character because her husband he's a scientist and he's trying to work on all this new technology about, sedation and being able to keep people, under for days and weeks at a time while all kinds of different, putting them in almost like a coma type state for all kinds of weird medical work and procedures and whatnot. So the doctor's not given the proper love to Miss Faye Grant, and so Mr. LaPaglia shows up and he's the cable guy, and yeah, so you can imagine there are porno cliches galore in this. The dialogue is just utterly laughable at times, and so yeah, this one from The Haunt of Fear number 26 is just, it's bad. It's really, really bad. Not even the twist can save this one. It's kind of a chuckly twist, but yeah, this is one where, unlike the Treat Williams one that we just mentioned, this is the opposite end of the spectrum. Some Tales from the Crypt can really straddle the line of humor and horror. Others go for just one or the other. This one definitely went for just humor, and for me, it didn't work. So let's get into the Feo and the final episode of our episode 13 coverage of Tales from the Crypt today. So Feo, ugly, what do we got, guys? Well, we have an episode called Yellow, and this is the return of Robert Zemeckis, who is an executive producer and behind just the creation of the Tales from the Crypt show. But Robert Zemeckis, man, come on, his laundry list of amazingness from Forrest Gump to the Back to the Future films. We don't really need to talk about him any more than we have already for this particular series, and he brings on some world-class talent for this World War I period piece. You've got Dan Aykroyd, you've got Lance Henriksen, but most notably, you have Kirk Douglas. Yes, one of the best dramatic actors ever. He birthed even great dramatic actors like Michael Douglas. The funny thing is, this episode actually stars a less-known spawn of Mr. Kirk Douglas. This is his son Eric, and I honestly, cannot remember much that this guy was in, but he very effectively plays the role of a just ugly, cowardly guy who is just running from battle and making the troops retreat and all kinds of stuff, and he is in a position of power because his dad is a general. However, he's in for a wake-up call because his cowardice is just sickeningly ugly, and so that's why it gets this distinction. It's well acted. Ironically, it's also an episode that was allowed a much longer runtime than any Tales from the Crypt I'd seen before. It's nearly 40 minutes, so I'm not sure if, they added some extra stuff at the beginning or the end, or who knows, but it was a much longer format for Tales from the Crypt, almost borderline, I don't know, much closer to theatrical than, still not that big, but so Zemeckis, Aykroyd, Douglas, so much talent behind this episode. I didn't like it as a kid. I will be the first to admit it because I was a gore hound. I wanted crazy supernatural stuff, and this being from the very first issue of the Shock Suspense stories, you're not going to get the supernatural in these EC books, EC books that had the supernatural were The Vault of Horror, The Haunt of Fear, Tales from the Crypt, and so this is one that, I didn't like as a kid because it didn't give me what I wanted, but looking at it as an adult, it's fantastic. It's well acted, and yeah, the twist is it's good. It's not an incredible one that's going to be a revelation, but it's very befitting, and it fits the story very well. So I cannot recommend it enough. It's tremendous. So I guess that's the end of the road here for episode 13, guys. I, Jaime En Fuego from the Horror Show channel, want to direct you to their website below. That's where I cover everything spooktacular when I'm not here talking about Tales from the Crypt. That's right. And I, Jaime En Fuego, can be found on all social media sectors, just at Jaime En Fuego, just like you're seeing it spelled below. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and obviously here on YouTube. So I extend a grande gracias to all of my cinemigos for tuning into this. I got more frightastic awesomeness coming at you throughout the rest of the month here about my beloved Tales from the Crypt. So until we get to chill out and talk horror once more, adios cinemigos, and I'll see you mañana.